Okay, we're recording to the cloud. Um, I've talked to a couple of you about this, and I think we touched on it in last week's meeting, but there's this vibe out there that buyers are back, right? And there are lots of reasons why people are saying they're back, and I don't want to get into all that. Nor do I want to discount the fact that um, the buyers being back, they haven't been back long enough to um, determine what the buyers are back. Ooh, that's a cool background. What the buyers are back really means. Like, is it a blip? Uh, is it the beginning of something shift wise in the market? We don't really know that for sure. And we're not really going to know that for sure for a little bit more time. But like I said in last week's meeting, I'll say it again, and I'll say it on the internet. I personally think that if somebody asks me, hey, look, you got to make a decision. You got to make a decision whether or not this is a blip, or you got to make a decision whether or not this is the beginning of something different. I personally think it's the beginning of something different. And here are my reasons for that. Number one, we've talked about it 100 times before. I don't want to go in detail, but there is so much built up demand on both sides of the transactions because nobody has really done anything for, we can actually say years now. Nobody's really done anything for years. And at some point, that just becomes too much to bear and things have to start happening again, right? We see people do things like, well, I guess 6.7 or 6.5 is not so bad. Let's go ahead and do it. Okay. The seller side of the transaction, there's been a lot of people that have been hesitant to list or sell because they didn't know where they were going to go, or they didn't think they were going to get what they wanted for their house, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And at some point in time, some of them have to sell that house, right? So we're seeing some of that, right? There's actually been a lot more inventory coming to market. We talked a little bit about that. The inventory growth is outpacing the absorption. We talked about that. But we also said that even though the growth in inventory was outpacing the absorption rate was still increasing, right? So buyers are coming back, right? And then it just gets down to so there's that part of it. The other part of it is that I think that I'm almost sure that, and man, I'm going to say this and I'm going to jinx it. There will be a rate cut in fall. Okay, there will be a rate cut in fall. And yes, it'll be a Fed rate cut. And yes, for those of you that are really, really sharp, you can say, but that doesn't mean anything about mortgage. And you're right, it doesn't mean anything necessarily about mortgage. Mortgage is not directly tied to the prime rate, but it definitely creates a tone and it creates an attitude. All right. If people hear that rates went down and people get excited, okay, and they go out and they buy cars and they go out and buy houses, right? They do both. They also spend more on their credit cards, which is problematic. But um, those things, and then just the typical real estate cycle, the way that real estate works, I think that this is the beginning of something good. Now, do I think that's the beginning of like, going into a late 2020, early 2021 frenzy? No, I don't. Okay, it's not that. That's not what's happening, and I don't really think that we want that to happen. That would do so much more damage to affordability that I'm not sure that here, at least here in Northern California, I don't know that we could ever recover from that. Okay. But what I do think it will turn into is an average amount of transactions happening. I do think it'll turn into, 5 to 6% a year in value growth in typical real estate. I think it'll turn into something healthy. Okay. I think it'll turn into something healthy. Uh, what we're going to base this conversation on today mostly is two things. Okay. Two things. We're going to use some information that I'm stealing from Keith Robinson, one of my favorite people to steal information from. We're going to use that. We're also going to take it from my direct experience. Okay. And here's my direct experience. I haven't repped a buyer since 2021. I don't think. I really don't think I have. Okay. In the COVID pandemic, I did a bunch of buyer referrals. I rep buyers. I got a really good feeling of what it was like to rep buyers in that time period. Okay. When the buyers went away, most of I don't necessarily market for buyers. Okay. They come to me, I take them. Most of them come in referral. I take them. I do the work. All right. In the past, I don't know, 3 weeks, 3.5 weeks. This will explain why I'm a little bit spacey right now. Buyer side of the transaction in the past 3 weeks, I put $4.5 million into escrow. So I repped a lot of buyers. Okay. And it is different. It is different and it is not easy. All right. So we're gonna take Keith Robinson info and we're gonna take my direct info and I'm gonna give you what I think is the best way to approach the buyer business because I think this too. Unless you have a bunch of listings in the pipeline, okay? Like unless you have a bunch of them in the pipeline, they're getting ready to break, you're going to have an immediate opportunity to take on buyers, and how you handle that is going to determine whether or not you're successful with them fairly quickly or whether or not it turns into a long, arduous process where eventually they're not happy, you're not happy, nobody's happy, right? And worst of all, you're not selling anything. Okay, you're not selling anything. Here's the other vibe. I'm going to toot my own horn for just a minute. And this is not to toot my own horn. This is just to say, listen, okay? The thing that I hear more often than not is the buyers are coming back, but it's really, really hard. I got to show them 75 properties. I've got to write 14 offers, right? By the time I finally get one, I can't, I can't function anymore. Everybody's stressed out. It's really, really hard. All the stuff I put into contract was one offer, one escrow. Okay. One offer, one escrow. We saw some houses, but when we got to the point where it's like, all right, let's sit down and let's write the offer, it was one offer, one escrow. Okay. None of this BS. I've written 14 offers. None of this BS. I'm writing three offers in a weekend to see which one we get. None of that. Okay. None of that. All right. So this is going to be a little choppy, but let's get this going. Okay. The information I'm taking from Keith Robinson, um, out of 6,000 agents, he picked the top, I think, 25 buyers agents in the company, and he sat them in a room and interviewed them. Okay. He sat them in a room and interviewed them. There were some qualifiers, which I think are really, really important. They had to come from a fairly active, fairly competitive market. All right. He didn't talk to people where it was the only brokerage in town and, they're kicking butt and they're doing all this. They're all from competitive markets. So that's a big deal. And the first thing that he talks about that effective buyer's agents are really good at, and I think this is critically important, and we've talked about this in meetings too, is you have to immediately with them. And I'm going to say all of these first two items, both this conversation and the buyer consultation meeting that you have to have, that you should have, it's all going to happen at once. All right. But you absolutely positively have to explain the market to them. Okay. Explain the market to them because they all think what? What do they all think? Somebody tell me. What does every potential buyer that is not an escrow think about the market?
They think it's a buyer's market and they should get a deal.
I know I saw Michael light up, but I couldn't hear him. Michael, did you say something?
I said they all think it's a buyer's market and they should get a deal.
Right there. That. They all think it's a buyer's market. I'm in charge. I'm going to get a deal. What is their definition of a deal? This is critically important too. What is
That
their
insults the seller.
what's that?
Something that insults the seller.
Yeah, but be more specific. In their head, what do they think? They're looking on Zillow, okay? What's their definition of a deal? This is rough. This is
Yeah.
really
They ask you, they want ridiculous prices and they want the thing to be fixed and made, perfect condition, and there's a long list of things that they're asking for that, I don't know, it doesn't seem
there is
fair.
there is, but let's talk about the biggest one. The biggest one is they think that they should pay like somewhere between 10 and 20% below whatever the list price is. They just think that, right? That's just what they think. It's buyer's market. It's my turn. I don't have to pay list price anymore. I'm going to get a discount. It's going to be somewhere between 10 and 20%. Now, we all know for a fact that that's not true, right? It's just not true. This is the biggest thing that you have to explain to them. You have to explain what the market's really like. Are there houses that they could go out and probably get a 20% discount from list? Are they out there? Everybody go like this. They're out there. Okay. Will they like them? Everybody go like this. Nope. They don't want those. Nobody does. That's why they're still on the market, right? Nobody wants those. They're still on the market. They're crummy for whatever reason, or they're overpriced so they don't get any traffic, or they don't advertise well so they're not getting any showings. They're dead. They're dead listings. They're not going anywhere. They're not selling. The listings that do sell in our market, and we're Placer, Sac, who's in here? Placer, Sac, Placer-ish. They're similar. The two markets are similar. This is Sac and Placer. The listings that do sell, what does it look like when they sell? How long does it take?
Few days, and they're fixed. They're not falling apart at the seams, and they did the Bautistament, and they know what the proper market price should be, and they're a couple dollars under, and they're still mad about that too because it's already less than it was before.
Right. Michael's fired up. He's still fired up, and I love it. Okay. The properties that do sell in our market, generally speaking, sell fairly quickly. Okay. 14 days or less is my new number. It used to be 5 days. Now it's 14. 14 days or less. And they sell very close to list price, up or down. Okay. Very close to list price, up or down. Let's talk about my boy Hong Bing. No, I shouldn't have dropped his name. Okay, I'm not going to tell you about it. Yeah, well. So we bought him a house over the weekend, right? Weekend? I don't know. I don't even know. Guys, ever since the last week of June, it's a blur. I don't even know what day it is. Okay. He said, "What do you think? I like this house. I want to buy it." I said, "That's great. I want you to buy it too. I think it's a good house." So he goes, "Well, okay, let's write an offer." I said, "Great. Let's write an offer." And he said, "Okay, what kind of discount can I expect?" And I said, "You can't expect one. What I want you to do is I want you to write this property for 5 grand over list price." Okay. This is the exact response I got. Silence. Like, what? No. Then we went through the exercise. Okay. Now I got to tell you, I've been working with this guy for 3 years. Okay. 3 years. All right. So we have a level of trust established. He trusts me. We get along. Okay. After showing him as many properties as I've shown him and talking him out of writing houses that I didn't think he should write, we have a level of trust. So we went through the exercise. I showed him how how the house was undervalued on the MLS, right? how long it takes to sell a house like that, how much a house like that sells for per square foot. Okay. We talked about the amount of traffic that was going through there. We talked about the fact that the listing agent said there were people that were thinking about writing offers. We talked about all of those things in detail. We talked about the dynamic of the house and the market for a really nice house in really good condition, above market average, priced below market average, and what was going to happen. Okay. He wrote it 5 grand over. We got it. Right? We got it. Against another offer, guys, against another offer. There was another offer submitted. There was no multiple counter. There was none of that BS. We just got it. We just got it. Okay. You've got to educate your clients about what's going on in the market and what different houses are like. And you've got to support that with what? Data from the MLS. You've got to show them. The MLS will give you examples, right? All you have to do is pick the parameter that they like. Okay, you want a house from $500,000 to $550,000 in Auburn. Okay, let me run the past 6 months of sales and let me throw another filter in there. I want houses that were on the market for 30 days or less. And I want to see those. I want to see those houses, right? You're going to get the list. You can flip through them, you can look through them, and you can say, does this look like a house that you would like? And they're going to go like this. Yep, I like that house. Great. Now let me flip it around. Let me take the same data for houses that were on the market for 120 days or more, right? Look at these houses. Would you like those houses? They're going to go like this. Okay. Once you have this going on, look at the number on the bottom where it says percentage of sale of purchase price to list price or sold price to list price, or the percentage, that number, it's high 90s. Okay. It's 96% or greater. It's high 90s. Show them there are different kinds of houses in the market, but in our market, the nice ones, the ones that you like, sell really fast and they sell very, very close to list price, up or down. Okay? Show them that. Talk about that and understand that before you ever see a house, before you ever show a property. Let them ask lots of questions. Give them lots of examples. Don't argue with them. Don't be an expert. And be an expert, but don't be an a-hole expert. You know what I mean? Don't do that. Show them. Show them. Because when you do that, when you spend all that time, even if it's a brand new client that doesn't know you, that was referred to you, and he calls you on a Sunday and says, what do you think about this one? And we go out and look at it, and it's still in prep, and it hasn't been staged, and there's a pod in the driveway, and blah, all this other stuff. And we're looking through all the boxes, right? And you get out to the driveway, and you go, what do you think? And he goes, I like it. I can see through all the crap. And I said, yeah, I think you're right. I can see all the crap too. We're going to go through inspections. We're going to do all that. And they say, what do you think we should do? And I say, write it today at full price with a 10-day inspection period and a 15-day loan contingency, and do not F around and let them stage this thing and let the pictures be taken and let everybody else see it. And they go, okay, let's do it. Right? What do you think happened with that one? I mean, I already spoiler alerted you. What do you think happened with that one? One offer, one contract, done. Okay. But that was only because he and I talked for like 90 minutes one day and without ever seeing a house. Let me tell you what's going on. Let me find out what you like in housing. Let me find out what you're looking for. Let me understand what kind of property you want. Okay, now let me tell you what the dynamic is like out there for that kind of property. Let me tell you what you can expect. Let me tell you what it's like. Let me tell you about people who have made mistakes and what I've learned from those mistakes and how we can avoid that, right? Now, this is not about shoving a property down somebody's throat or, saying, well, you know what, one showing, one contract, one offer. That's all great, but it's not about that. The guy loved it. Okay. He loved the house. If he didn't love the house, then we're going to keep going. We're going to keep looking. We're going to keep doing what we do. But when we didn't even make it back to the trucks and he was telling me, I want it. Like, I want it. Okay. If you're telling me that you want it and it's a good fit, then let's go back to the conversation I had with you about what we have to do to get it. He remembered all that. It was all in there. So that conversation about what we should do and how we should do it and when we and the timeline of what we should do it on was really easy. It was just like, yep, okay, yeah, okay, yeah, okay, yeah, let's do it. Right? What would happen, do you think, and nobody knows for sure, but what would happen if I had had like a 10, 15-minute deal with this guy, send him a BRBC and DocuSign, right? He calls me on a Sunday to go out and look at a house. We go look at the house. He says he wants it. It's full of all kinds of stuff. There's a pod in the driveway. There's a dog running around barking at us. That all really happened. All of that stuff. And he says, man, I want it. And I would have said to him at that point in time, well, you know what? We got to go list price plus 1,000. And we got to have zero contingency, really short contingency periods. And we got to do it today. Like, you got to cancel the rest of your day and we got to do it today. He's probably going to think like, no, you're trying to shove something down my throat, right? We had to have that conversation. You've got to have them understand before you ever look at a house, what's going on, how you're going to have to perform, what's going to happen if you don't perform that way, and the difference in properties. The two different kind of properties that there are on the market. If you have someone that's more investor minded, maybe they're looking at not so nice properties, right? Well, then you can have a conversation about two different kinds of investment properties. Super, super clean. I'm thinking of Brianna's Garnett. That's an investor property's dream. Super, super clean. Versus, what was the street, Michael? The one that the fixer that you did? I don't remember the name of the street. Michael's fixer that he did not too long ago.
Yeah,
Different.
the open house,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Hermes.
Hermes. Yeah. 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 Different kind of properties. Okay. Help them understand the market. Use the MLS as your proof, as your data based proof. Give them examples. Set an expectation for performance and speed, right? Because guys, the one thing that is a lot like 2021 is that if it's good, you got to go now. You got to go now. Okay. You can't wait. If it's good, and especially if it's below median in price, right? It's gone. You got to go. Okay. You got to go. That first meeting, that's in that first meeting. Also, in that first meeting, I think you have to explain to them what's going to happen once they're under contract. Okay? Once they're under contract. You need to explain that you're going to do inspections and they're going to find things. Okay? You need to explain that although sellers are more willing today than they were a few years ago to give credits or make repairs, they're still not real excited about it. Okay? It's going to be a fight. They should never be able to expect to get the full dollar amount of something. If you do, that's great. And what I mean is this: you do a pest inspection, they find 3 grand in work, right? You've got to let them know if we find 3 grand in work and I get you 1,500, that's a win. You've got to be happy with that. If we happen to do better than that, that is great. That is great. But what we're seeing now is 50%. Whatever request I make, you're getting half. And that's a win. If we do that, that's a win. Okay? You've got to let them know that. You've got to let them know that the seller is likely to be very, very strict with your contingency calendar. Okay? So again, you've got to operate very quickly. Okay? Really quickly. You need to let them know you're probably going to feel like you don't have enough time to digest all of this information. You might feel rushed. Okay? I'm going to help you with that. We're going to utilize the experts to help us with that. I'm never going to ask you to sign off something in the contract that you're not comfortable signing. But what I do need you to know is you're going to need to work quickly. Okay? Because the contingency calendars are tight. All right? You're going to need to let them know, look, you're going to need to close on time. Okay? So let's make sure that, let's say you're in a rental. Okay? Let's say you're in a rental. Let's make sure that you know that the close date is close. What does that mean if you're in the rental? Well, what that means if you're in the rental is you might have to pay an extra 2 weeks in rent, even though you're not living there. I need you to be prepared for that. Right? You're in a rental. You haven't given notice. You go into contract on a house. Okay? We're going to get 2 weeks through the process, and then you're going to feel comfortable saying, okay, I'm going to remove my contingencies. I'm moving forward. I'm just waiting to close 2 to 3 weeks. Okay. Now you know, okay, I'm moving. And so now you're comfortable giving your notice. You see the problem? Right? Now, fortunately, you're not going to have to make a house payment for the first month. Okay. So it's not like you're going to be double paying, but you need to understand that it's very possible that you're going to be paying for 2 to 3 weeks worth of rent for a house or a house or an apartment or whatever that you no longer live in. Because we have to close on time. We have to perform to the calendar. We have to do those things. Okay? You need to let them know that. Talk to them about that. Talk to them about it up front. It's not going to be a surprise when it actually happens. And I'm telling you right now, if they're in a rental, it's going to happen. You need to know that. It's going to happen. Because they're going to say to you, Caron, okay, we're in contract. Should I give my notice? And you're going to say, no, don't do that. Like, let's do some inspections. Let's make sure everything's okay. Let's make sure your loan's going to get approved. Let's make sure you're safe before you become homeless. Okay? Don't do that. That's the nice Caron. Okay? But if you don't have that conversation, you're going to be devil Caron in like 2 weeks when you break to them that they're paying rent on something they're not living in anymore. Okay? They got to know that. Okay? Cover all of that in the beginning. All of it. Okay? So you've got all that covered. They're comfortable with all that. You guys are working together now. They couldn't wait to sign your BRBC after that. I'm telling you right now. They can't wait because whatever bonehead cousin they talked to, my neighbor's cousin, like, didn't do all that. They didn't. I promise you. They didn't. They don't want anything to do with it anymore. So they got your BRBC signed. Now, they have an expectation that we are going to perform for them at a really high level, right? And they deserve that. You've got to make sure you're dialed in with them electronically, right? You got them in bold trail, whatever. You got them in bold trail. They're getting a market report every week. Okay. You got their birthday in there. All right. You've done that. So you can do the birthday bit that we talked about with whoever like 4 weeks ago. You've synced them to Real Scout. Okay. Don't use the bold trail search engine. It's garbage. You synced them to Real Scout. You've put their parameters in, and they're a little bit looser than they said. Okay. They're a little looser. If they said the top of my budget's 500, you're like, yeah, 550. Okay. They're a little looser, and they're getting media. Okay. They're getting media. So they feel like, all right, this person's engaged with what I'm looking for. I'm getting media. I'm getting things to look at. I'm getting notifications. Okay. The worst thing that could happen is you could have this amazing meeting and then like 2 or 3 days goes by where there's nothing. Okay. I want you to hang up from the meeting Zoom or leave the meeting car. Okay. Notice I didn't say phone or text. Okay. Zoom, car. And I want you to put them in. They're probably already in Bold Trail, but then I want you to sync them to Real Scout and get them going like right now. So like 2 hours, 3 hours, maybe most after that meeting's over, they're getting peppered. Okay. They're getting it. And when they ask you about those properties, your response time is critical, right? Everything now is making us, is setting us in the position of both an expert and someone who's very responsive to their needs. Very responsive to their needs. Okay. I know we've talked about this before, but let's cover it one more time because it's going to become more. They all think you're sending it to them individually, finger to finger, right? They think that, right? So if you put them on Real Scout, they're going to think that you wake up at 3 in the morning and scour the MLS and send them properties and write a little blurb about it. They all think that. Okay. And that's good. We want them to think that. But this is what that phone call or that text message sounds like. Hey, I love that house I love that house that you sent me. That's it. I love that house that you sent me. When do you think we can see it? That's what it says. Okay. So you don't even know you don't know what house they're talking about. You don't know what the showing instructions are. You don't know any of that. It's really, really simple. Please don't overthink this. Just respond back and say, I send out a lot of houses this morning. What's the address? Okay, that's it. They'll screenshot it or give you the address or whatever. They won't think twice about it. You can go in and look at the showing instructions. You can get it going. You can move on. Okay. I don't know how many agents I've talked to are like, I don't know what to say because then they think I don't know. And no, they don't. They don't care. Okay. They don't care. They don't care. Just say, I sent a lot of houses out this morning to a lot of people. Shoot me the address. I'll get into it. That's all you got to do. Okay. Respond quickly. But Damien, I've got a family barbecue that I gotta get ready for, and like, I gotta take half the day and block it out. Okay. I know that I spend a lot of time telling you guys you gotta have like, oh, you gotta have your personal time, block things off in your calendar, blah, blah, blah. Sorry. Okay. Sorry. Until you've got enough money in your bank account to where you're like, I don't care if I lose one, and I don't think any of us are in that spot right now. We will be again, but we're not in that spot right now. Until you get to that spot, you better be ready and you better go. You got to figure it out. You know what? You're going to piss off your significant other. It's going to happen. All right. It's absolutely going to happen. And it's just, that's what they demand from us right now. So that's where it's got to be. If you want to try and land every opportunity that you have, you got to know that. So it might be a good time to have a talk with your significant other too. Like, some of us have had to do. Like, babe, I love you, but I got, well, you're not going to see me for a while. You're just not. Like, please don't be mad. Okay. This is a real conversation, by the way, folks. Please don't be angry. Yeah. I gotta go. So it's hard. Okay. It's hard. But if you do all of those things and you respond quickly, guys, guess what? Really pay attention to this. If you do all those things and you respond quickly, you can ask for and receive a quick response. You with me? Right? If I respond to you, like the minute that you ask me something or the minute you want to see me something, I'm establishing a tone, right? I'm establishing that this is a very fast-paced process and transaction. So you're feeling that. You're in it with me. So when I say to you, cancel your day, you got to go home now. I'm sending it to you DocuSign. They're like, yeah, we got to go. Okay? You're setting a tone. All right? We talked about Bold Trail and we talked about Real Scout. Also things that I put in my calendar for these folks while we're working together. While we're working together. This is not sphere stuff. This is active client stuff. If I hear them mention that there's a vacation coming, or if I hear them mention that they've got a soccer tournament for the kids or a basketball tournament for the kids, or somebody's coming in from out of town, or any of that stuff, or they're going to be going somewhere out of town for the weekend, or any of that stuff, if I hear them mention that just in casual conversation, I immediately ask more about it and tell them I want to put that in my calendar. Okay? And they're like, whoa. Like, no, I'm going to put your vacation in my calendar. Where are you going? How long are you going to be gone? When you leaving? When you getting back? I need to know these things. Okay? I need to know when you're not available. Right? I need to know that. And they're like, oh yeah, yeah, he needs to know. Like he really needs to know. All of a sudden, we're like a team now, right? We're like a team. I'm part of the vacation process. And more importantly, when they're done, because it's in my calendar and I know they're back, I can text them real quick and say, like, hey, how's the vacation? Did you eat a lot of fish? Like, what's going on? Right? Trust building. Okay. Understand what they've got going on in their lives, calendar it. Yes, so that I mean, nothing will be worse than if they're completely unavailable and something really awesome comes on the market and you send them a text like, we've got to see this one now. It's the one we've been waiting for. It's perfect and it's going to sell this weekend. I mean, that would be bad. That would be real bad, right? If I know my folks are going to be gone on a boat at Catalina Island for the weekend and something great comes up, I ain't sending it. Not doing it. Okay? Know what's going on, right? More important with buyers than it is with sellers, isn't it? Because when sellers take off, you got it. You got the house. You can handle it. You got the house. Buyers don't have the house. They have to go to the house. So don't put them in that situation and don't put yourself in that situation. And it's great when you can ask them about their trip or how many games they won in the soccer tournament or. This one's from Keith Robinson. It's not from me. I think that it's true. 90 whatever percent of the time. Um, I try and beat this personally because I feel like it means I did a really, really good job. But it's important to know that the first offer isn't about winning, it's about learning. Because most of the time, industry averages wise and everything else, the first offer you write from someone, for someone, excuse me, the first offer you write for someone does not get accepted. does not get accepted. Most of the time, it doesn't get accepted because what they wanted in the offer was out of standard. Okay? I got Michael's clients in my brain when I say that. Except they didn't do it just on the first offer. They do it on every offer. All of them.
My first offer wrote was accepted for a lot of those people because we took your advice.
Right.
And then they screwed it up afterwards.
Right. Right. If you can't get them on board with all the stuff that we started the meeting about and they want to dictate terms, chances are really good if they're dictating all the terms and not taking your counsel that that one's not going to hit. Does that make sense? All right. They're either going to ask for too much of a discount, too long of an inspection period. They're going to ask the seller to do things like, we want you to do all these inspections or whatever that sellers just don't do anymore. Okay. You guys are starting to understand my program now, why I do things the way I do things with sellers too. Right. So that one's not going to hit. That one's not going to go. That right there is a learning opportunity. Okay. When you lose that offer and they're bummed because they will be, we're going to reconvene. Okay. Zoom, car, not phone, not text. We're going to reconvene. Okay. And we're going to take our offer that we wrote on that property and we're going to compare that offer to what we talked about in the first meeting with standards of practice, and we're going to see where we missed out. And now all of a sudden, we've got living, breathing proof. If the data wasn't enough, the lost offer will be. We've got living, breathing proof of, okay, if we wanted to get that one, we would have had to do this. Let's check and see if that is beyond what we talked about when we first got together. It won't be. It won't be. It will be exactly what you talked about when you first got together. And now we can all grow together, right? We can all grow together. And now, folks, now, when you tell them this is my best advice, they're going to listen. Okay? They're going to listen. So use the first offer for lending. Something else I've started doing, I find out who their lender is in that first meeting. Okay. I get on board with that lender as far as, okay, you're the lender, I'm the agent. We're going to be working together. We're going to be writing offers. And I tell the lender, this is how it's going to go. Okay. I'm going to show them a house. They're going to say they want it. I'm going to text you and I'm going to say, send me a pre-qual letter now, and you're going to do it. Okay. Even if that means you're in the middle of a barbecue, you're going to send me a pre-qual letter. All right. I don't want to wait 24 hours, 12 hours, 3 hours, 2 hours for a pre-qual letter. I want a pre-qual letter within an hour when I ask for it. Can you do that for me? Yeah. Okay, we'll see. But that's what I want. Number two, I want you to know that when I write the offer and I send it to the agent, I'm going to CC you on that offer and direct that agent to you with any loan questions, and you and I are best friends. You understand that? Yeah. Okay. So now my offer has more power than somebody else's offer. Because yeah, everybody's going to send a pre-qual. Everybody's going to send verification of funds. Nobody is going to CC the lender and say, this is the lender. I want to introduce you guys. Listing agent, if you have any questions about financing while talking about our offer to the seller, please contact them directly. Okay. And now everybody's happy, right? Lender might not be happy. Okay. Lender might not be happy. Could be 3:30 on a Sunday afternoon. And I say, I want my pre-qual letter now, right? That's just the way it is. If you can't get it for me, lender, I understand because we're all busy and maybe you have a boat. And if you can't get it for me, that's fine because I have a guy that I've worked with for 25 years that can. Okay. So if you can't do it, you let me know. It's not a problem. I'll get one from him. Okay. Guess what? They'll get you your letter. No problem. Okay. Don't forget who you are in this process, folks. And I'm not saying be terrible to lenders or be mean or anything like that. What I'm saying is it's on you and only you to show the house that find them the house that they want. And it's on you and only you to get that offer submitted for them quickly so that you can secure that for your client. That is not on the lender. Okay. That's on you. Okay. You don't get to say, well, I couldn't get a hold of the lender, so I'll get you a pre-qual ASAP. Nobody cares. Okay. You send a complete package. You send a complete package with an RPA. Use a dang confidentiality agreement. Don't be silly. Use that too. Make sure it has a pre-qual and make sure that you have verification of funds. Send everything. Nothing's pending. Nothing, oh, but Damien, the RPA box says because on holiday weekends and stuff, it says 3 days after acceptance. Don't ever check that box. Make sure it's all attached and you send a complete package. That's how you do one offer, one contract. That's how you do it. Okay? Send a complete package, loop in the lender, be on the same page before before you see a house. Okay? I like this part too. Keith Robinson says these are the things that he drew down from one thing about great buyers agents that they all have in common. Because can you imagine what it must be like? And I don't even want any part of this. Can you imagine what it must be like if you put, say, 30 like super producing buyers agents on a Zoom and you said, okay, tell me how you guys do your job. Can you imagine what that Zoom's like? That would be rough. But Keith said they all have a few things in common. Number one, they show up with empathy, right? Buying a house is scary and hard. They show up with empathy. They educate early and often. That's what we're talking about with the big long meeting up front and the reminders about that meeting. They follow up with intention and consistency. Okay. This one's really important, and we've talked about this one. They know who their ideal clients are, and they aren't afraid to say no to the rest. Okay? Those are the things that all of those top producers have in common. And I know I don't know them personally, but I know for him to draw down on top producing buying agents, you're talking about at a minimum these are folks doing 30, 35 units a year minimum. Okay. So these guys are doing a lot of business, right? A lot of business. Okay. Aside from that, let me give you the overall vibe of this thing because I think this is important. We've covered a lot, but I want to give you the overall vibe. Number one, you got to set expectations and you've got to make sure that they understand the market. Number two, you need to realize it is really, really hard and you probably can't go fast enough. If it's a good property, right? And you know what I mean by a good property. If it's a good property, you probably can't move fast enough, right? Speed, speed, speed. Show it as quickly as possible. If they like it, write it as quickly as possible, right? Do not wait. When the buyer says, well, let me think about this, I want you to default to, what I like to call, some people aim and then fire. Okay. You fire and aim later. That's what a contingency period is for. Okay. You can't go fast enough. Number three, once you get into contract, it's really effing hard. All right. It is really effing hard. You need to understand that and you need to be up for it. They are going to want more than the seller is willing to give. It is going to get, I don't want to say confrontational. I'm going to say it is going to approach impasse and non-agreement. You have to be able to navigate that. Okay. A big part of navigating that is setting expectations. Again, letting them know if I ask for 3 and you get 1,500, we should be happy and we should walk away. Nod your head with me, client. Let's agree. Can we sign that in blood? Like, because that's what's going to happen. Right. Number 4, once you're in contract, your buyer client is probably not going to move as fast as you need them to move. Okay. Probably not going to move as fast as you need them to move. You're going to have to kind of be a catalyst. You're going to have to be a catalyst. All right. That's the biggest things that I can glean from my recent experience in doing buyers, repping buyers. They don't move at the same speed. Expectations are a huge thing. Sellers are not cooperative. Okay. And I do a lot of sellers too. And so some of you in here have done some sellers recently. They are completely unreasonable a lot of times, right? Yeah, you've got $75,000 in pest damage. It's a real problem. It's $75,000. Oh, it's not that bad. Okay, got it. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Questions, thoughts, comments. It is 52. That was a crap ton of information. I hope it was helpful. What do you got to say, or what do you got to add, or what do you want to know? Nothing. No one's going to even challenge me a little bit.
Can't wait. Can't wait to be busy like that. Yeah, I can't wait to be. Oh, sorry, I got 30 clients that want to make an offer right now.
I'm going to tell you something else, though. And Michael, that brings up a good point. Let me tell you something else. Look, guys, I'm really, really lucky. All right. It's been a long time. I got this giant sphere of influence and people that send me business. And for that, I'm blessed. Don't be afraid to go out there right now and find them. Okay. Find them. They are out there. Their attitude is out there, right? If this is a shift, attitudes are changing. Talk about real estate. Maybe kick your social over to more about buying versus selling, right? Let them, get your name out there about being a resource for home buyers. Talk about the path of home purchase. Think about partnering with your favorite lender and seeing, is there some joint marketing that we can do here?
First time buyers seminar.
Yeah. Be bold. You guys want to do a first time buyer seminar in the office? You plan it, we'll do it, just do it. You know what I mean? Like, think out of the box. How do you get them going? How do you add those names to your sphere? How do you add prospecting buyers to what you're doing? And I know that, but Damien, all you ever talk about is list to last, and we got to do listings and learn how to be a seller's agent. And blah. I know. Don't stop doing that. That's all true. But the fact is that there is probably an immediate batch of opportunity to help a few people buy a house. That's just reality. Okay. So, I'm the first one to say I don't work with buyers. I mean, I don't generally, but if I have the opportunity, I'm not going to be like, no, I can't help you. Come on. Like, you know what I mean? If they're out there, you got to be out there. What else? Sorry if I'm a little all over the place. Like I said, it's been a long few weeks. Don't really know what day it is. In fact, somebody said, don't, well, I'll see you at the meeting. And I'm like, meeting? What? Huh? So, yeah. Okay. All right. Well, if you don't have anything else, I'm going to push the button. I'm here for you. If you want to chat about it in other ways, or you want to get more detail, or you figure out, oh, there's things I should have asked and ask them about this crap, call me, text me. You know how to find me. All right. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. See you later.